Welcome to another episode of the Hoopsfix Podcast with me, your host Sam Nita, full-time British basketball advocate. And on this week's show, we have someone who I feel like has flown under the radar a little bit since he kind of blew up at college and has gone on to a very successful professional career. It's none other than Taiwo Badmus. Kind of started playing very late. Was actually spent his first 5 years in London. Moved to Ireland until he was 16, came back to London, which is where he first picked up a basketball with the legendary Mike Carty down in South London, before sort of floating around a little bit and ultimately ending up in the States, going to college, where after 2 years at NCAA Division Fairmont State, he transferred out to UVA Wise, where he put up ridiculous numbers, to be honest, after 2 years of barely playing, and really kind of had a bit of vindication on his part, proving to himself that he had the ability. It's a real underdog story, where I think there are many times he could have given up, but he kept going, and has now, spent 3 years pro in LEB Silver, where it was in his first year, where he ended up helping them to promotion, and he spent the last 2 years in LEB Gold in Spain. So yeah, he's no slouch, and it was really good to kind of hear his story, which I really didn't know a lot about until we got him on this. So it was a fascinating insight. I think also gives a lot of credit to Midnight Madness, and it kind of shows you the importance of summer events. As much as sometimes we kind of there's sometimes rubbish by the establishment as being street ball and whatever else, but they do provide exposure and help players sort of get onto the next step. So yeah, it wasn't until 2014 really where he kind of blew up on the scene, and then that was what allowed him to then go to the States. So yeah, fascinating story. Really enjoyed chatting to him. Great guy. So I think this interview will be as enjoyable for you as it was for me, as always. Just a quick note: there was some technical issues with my mic. I'm not quite sure what's going on with this, but there's been a couple of episodes now where my mic has been inaudible to the interviewee. So midway through, I had to switch from this mic to my laptop built-in mic, so there is a noticeable drop difference in quality on my end for me, not for him. His audio stays the same throughout. So just something to give you a heads up on. As always, before we get into the show, please take 2 seconds to check out our Patreon account, patreon.com/hoopsfix, patreon.com/HOOPSFIX. There you can start to give us a monthly or annual contribution of as much or as little as you would like to help us do the work that we're doing, trying to grow this British basketball media landscape, and we're coming direct to you, our audience, to help us do it. So please consider donating the price of a cup of coffee, the price of a sandwich, an amount of money that you wouldn't even realise leaving your account every single month, but it goes a long way in helping us do what we do. So please go and check it out, patreon.com/hoopsfix. As always, let me know what you think in the comments on YouTube. You can drop me an email if you prefer some private one-on-one interaction, sam@hoopsfix.com, or you can hit me up on every single social media platform at Hoopsfix. Anyway, that's enough from me. Here is this week's show with Taiwo Badmus. Taiwo, welcome to the show.
Hey there. How you doing?
Yeah, it's going good. I'm glad that we've sort of finally got this to happen. You know, like I said, I'd love to kind of get into your journey, talk about how you got to where you are today. And I think the place I always like to start is rewind it right back to the beginning. I'm not too aware of sort of your early start, but kind of your upbringing and actually how you ended up first picking up basketball.
Well, I'm more of like a late bloomer, so I started playing when I was about 16, 17. I was living in Ireland before, so I moved from the UK to Ireland when I was about 5. And then, I moved back to London when I was 16. So when I got back to the UK, I wanted to play soccer at first. And then I think I was on YouTube and I saw like Allen Iverson. He actually got me into basketball. I saw him doing like the killer crossover and stuff. And I was like, it's pretty cool. So I actually was practicing with a soccer ball, trying to do those things. And then I have a twin. So me and my brother, we used to practice together and, just compete and stuff. And, we went on the internet and was looking for teams around the UK because we were in London, and because we were freshly in London and we didn't really know anyone or we didn't have a lot of connects. So we were looking online and we actually saw Damlala Taylor Center, which is in Peckham. Michael Carty. He passed away. May his soul rest in peace. So he kind of took us in and taught us the fundamentals, the basics of basketball, and I learned to love it. That whole summer, I was in the gym with him for about 3 months, every single day for about 5-6 hours a day, and that's what really kick-started my basketball career, honestly.
So that Irish connection, like, what made you move to Ireland? Obviously, I knew about the Irish connection. Obviously, you represent the Ireland senior national team in recent years. But yeah, so you were originally until 5 years old, you were in London, and then you moved to Ireland, and then obviously at 16ish, you then moved back to London. Like, what was why did you move to Ireland, and like, what was the sort of reasoning?
It was my family. My father had a job there, so we all moved there. And, you know, I have younger brother and sisters, and they were born there. So we kind of just, you know, we went to school there, and we were just there, you know. And
whereabouts in Ireland was it?
Dublin.
Dublin, okay. And you didn't do any basketball in Ireland?
Nothing.
Okay.
You know, I thought about doing it, but I didn't have the opportunity. There was no teams around me. And we actually I kind of looked up some teams, and they were like 2-3 hours away, and there's no way I was gonna, you know, travel 2-3 hours. You know. So
those early years, like it's not even that early, like 16. Obviously, like you said, it's a late start, but I think that's the same for so many players that have come through sort of the UK system, is kind of picking up basketball late. But yeah, like, you know, you mentioned Mike Carty there. Like, I know he's obviously provided, you know, countless opportunities to so many players in South London. Can you kind of talk about what it was like being under his tutelage? I guess the sort of the things that maybe stand out from you from those early sort of sessions, those hours that you were putting in, and I guess also the biggest learnings that you took from him.
He was just, you know, he believed in me. He said he saw something in me that I didn't know I had in me, and he was just like, you know, every day he was like, trust me, trust the process, keep going. You know, when I first started, I could barely make a layup, you know, and he would just keep telling me, like, don't worry, keep going. I was a little athletic. I was fast. I was quick. I couldn't really jump that high, but I was fast. And he saw I had like a first step, and I had like a knack with the ball and kind of stuff like that. And he just kept on pushing me. He would teach me the basics from layups, right-hand layups to left-hand layups. And, you know, it was just an everyday thing. And I didn't really have much to do because I didn't know anyone. So it was just me and my brother. We was in the gym all day. So he told us, you know, our hard work will pay off. And like, even during the summer, we would try and go to other sessions too. And, you know, the things we learned from Michael Carty, we'll try and implement them in other places. So we traveled all over, and we just wanted to learn. And
had you started playing National League at this point?
No.
Did you play National League? What was your progression into actually playing club basketball?
I played 1 year of National League. So from the age of like 16 to 17, I guess that's where I was developing, building my game. And Michael Carty was like, okay, let's play National League. I think you're good enough to play National League. He said, we'll try and build a team around you and your brother, because it was just me and my brother in the gym. So, you know, some players would come in for like open gym and stuff. So he would tell us to, you know, help recruit players. So we recruited like, you know, 9 to 10 players, and he told us like, okay, this team is for you and your brother, you know, just use his experience. And that year from 17 to 18, that's when I knew I was improving, because, you know, from the age of 16 to 17, it was just open gym. He used to have runs in Flaxman, and I don't know if you heard of it, in Damla Taylor Center at Flaxman, and I would play with the older guys. And, you know, that's what kind of helped me. They would teach me a lot of things, give me advice, and I added that to what I did in the National League. And I noticed I could score the ball. I was scoring the ball pretty well, and I noticed I was improving. My IQ wasn't really there. I was just mainly like a street baller because, it was my first year actually playing organized basketball. But I was, every game I was learning. I was trying to get better, and we didn't win. We didn't win a lot of games at first. Towards the end, we started winning, but it was good. And then I got more exposure, met a lot more people, met a lot more coaches. I think that's when I met Andrea. She was refereeing she refereed a few of our games.
Andrea Norton.
Andrea Norton, yeah. So she got to see me play a lot, and she was coaching at Hackney Community College, and she told me like, "What are you doing with basketball? This and that." And she said, come practice with us. I went to practice with them. I ended up signing up to the college and was playing with them, and that's where it started. And
those, do you remember, because I feel like even though obviously you were around London, sort of that time, I always felt like you were on the radar. Like it wasn't really until you went to the US and then started coming back in the summers was when it was like, I feel like that was like when your profile really, people started really, well, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but that's when you really sort of came onto my radar and stuff like that. Like, do you feel like you had any type of, I don't know what the word, like sort of recognition? Like, do you feel like you were sort of seen as a talented player with a lot of potential? Because I think your story, actually looking at it now, is quite remarkable in the sense that you started so late. Even then, your first year, you weren't even playing sort of organised basketball. It was very much just working out and stuff like that. To then have gone on to, being a professional and obviously playing at a high level, it's like, yeah, in those early, at what point, I guess, did you feel like, oh, maybe I've got a future in this sport. Like I do have potential. I am good, like compared to my peers and other players of my age.
The point I would say was after HCC. So after HCC, I told myself I wanted to go to the States, and I was emailing a lot of coaches and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of basketball, that age when I would go to open gyms. And I would notice, it was easy. It was easy for me. I was, a lot of people were, when I noticed when people were afraid to guard me, a lot of people were afraid to guard me. And I started gaining confidence. People would ask me what I was doing, this and that. And I just started gaining confidence. And I think Midnight Madness was when it kind of blew up. I think we played in Loughborough, we played in London, and that's where my confidence was just on another level. And, Midnight Madness, that's where all the ballers are at. So I'm seeing all these ballers come through, and, we're having good battles, and I'm scoring, I'm doing this, my team's winning. And I think I got opportunities to go to the States. It was a few D2 schools were looking at me. So I took that opportunity when I went to the States. I was improving my game, and, it was the summers I came back for Pro Classic and stuff. I think you made a highlight tape of me with the Midnight Madness, and that kind of went crazy. That's when everyone kind of knew about me. And, I'd come back and I'd do things like I think it was FamFest or things like that. And you were there, and that kind of, helped me.
So that summer with Midnight Madness, because I think you were given I can't remember the name of the award. They had a sort of MVP of the summer that was cool.
MVP.
Yeah. So they that, but that was 2014, right? So had you gone to the States?
Summer.
Had you already gone to the States or not?
No. That was the summer before I went to the States.
Because the other thing that's interesting is obviously by the time you went to the States, you were actually quite old. Like you were older than you would have been if you were a true freshman. So by 2014, so you're a 93, right? So you'd have been 21 by the time you actually had gone to the States. Mm-hmm. What had you been doing between? So did you go to the university in England? Had you gone to university in England before you'd gone to the US?
So I did 1 year at the University of West London before I went. Wow. Which it actually made it easier to go because I didn't really have to, there's a lot of requirements of SATs and stuff like that. And I just transferred my credits. But it was rare. Not a lot of people, I don't think anyone has ever done that. But I wanted to take the year out, but I got some advice, and I was told if I took the year out, it'd be difficult, to go out to the States. So I was talking to a lot of schools, and there was a lot of I was trying to sort out like my transcripts. It's difficult to do.
Yeah.
So things kind of fell through late, and I ended up just going to university for that year. And I actually told myself if I didn't go to the States after that, I probably wouldn't play basketball anymore. And opportunities came up, and I ended up going.
Wow. So were you playing basketball at the University of West London?
I played, but it wasn't like a serious. It wasn't like, I don't know what division they were even in, but it wasn't anything seriously. So I played there. They practiced like once a week, so it wasn't really serious.
So
it was just something to do.
And what were you doing to keep your game? Because obviously that. So if you're talking about you were at the University of West London for that year before the summer of 2014. Obviously you come into the summer of 2014, and actually I watched that mixtape that I did of Midnight Madness that summer, which I encourage people to go and watch because it is pretty crazy. Like the highlights were nuts. But like obviously you come into Midnight Madness, and again, that summer. As much as some people will say, "Oh, Midnight Madness isn't organised basketball and it's street ball and this and that," actually, when you look at the level of players that were playing in it, guys like Cavell Bigby Williams, guys like Terrell Isaacs, there's a lot of sort of national team level players that play in it. The level of competition is high, and as you said, like you very much stood out. What were you doing to keep your game kind of sharp and ensuring that you didn't drop off in that year when essentially you're playing Bucks on a Wednesday in some lower division you don't even know what it is, and you're probably practicing once or twice a week as a team?
I was just in the gym literally every single day, like all day, every day. Any opportunity I had, like I practiced with. If I didn't have a gym, if I had to practice with a women's team, I practiced with a women's team. If I had to practice with the younger team, I practiced with the younger team. The men's after, I was just always in the gym. I tried to, keep sharp. If high-level players wanted to work out, I'd work out with them. Anyone that wanted to work out, I'd work out with them. I was working out with Louis Annan from Let's Get Active. I was working out with him a lot also. But I was just always in the gym, always. Because I knew, even though I was doing all that, going to the States, it's a whole different level. So I was trying to focus my mind on, the next level.
Did you believe at that point? So, there were points in life where, there's like a sort of self-awareness you have to have and say, as much as I know this is my dream, when I look at the reality of kind of where I am right now, I have to ask the question whether or not this is a potential option or whether I'm kidding myself. Did you have moments, I guess, in that year where the States hadn't had fallen through? You were obviously at university in England, where you questioned, whether or not basketball was the right path for you, whether or not you sort of believed in yourself anymore of potentially being able to make it, so to speak.
Definitely, that whole year was pretty stressful, because I had no idea what was going to happen. And, I was studying also, so I kind of had that as a backup plan. I studied computer and information systems, so I had that as a backup plan. But that whole year, I was stressed. I was trying to get something, because I told myself, I probably wouldn't play basketball after this if this doesn't, seriously, I wouldn't play basketball seriously after this if it doesn't work out. So, I was thinking of other things too, but my plan A was to go to the States. And then when opportunities were there, it kind of, gave me more encouragement and to keep going. And, when those opportunities came, I knew what was going to happen.
Your before we sort of get to the States stuff, like your time in London, from the time when you picked up a ball to the time when you were, working out with various guys, like, you spoke about sort of doing workouts and getting advice from older guys. Like, who were the players kind of that you were playing with, that you were getting advice from, that you were working out with, that helped you kind of on your path?
Mainly, I trusted Timmy from he's coach of Southern Legends. I trusted him a lot. He used to, he's been around the game. He knew a lot of guys, so I trusted him a lot, and he was always advising me. Yeah, if I had any doubts, I would go to him. He was a person. He worked me out a lot too. He after Mike Carty passed away, he worked me out. So he would give me a lot of advice, and till this day, he's still one of the guys by my side, and I get a lot of advice from him. But in terms of players, I try to be a sponge. Like I would, if I saw a kid do a move and it looked good, like I would ask the kid, "What can you show me that move?" Like I didn't care, if he was younger than me, if he was a worse player than me. Like I would literally anyone. I'll take advice from anyone. But there was a lot of Americans that would come back from the States too. And I don't know if you heard of Rashad.
Surname?
Rashad Uba.
No, I don't know if I have.
He was an American, but he has family here, so he was always here. So he was one of the closest guys that helped me to get out to the States. And he was friends with Timmy also, so I'd get advice from him. He played for UC Irvine, so he was one of the guys I would get a lot of advice from.
What the thing, like, so the '93 generation, when we're talking about sort of that sort of group of players that were representing the England national team at that time, the '93s were considered sort of one of the better generations. We had guys like Devon Van Oostrum. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, Jesse Chukwu. Who were the guys that you were looking to from your generation, or maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger, that were kind of like that you were looking to as like the best players of your generation, guys that you were either looking to go up against, match up against, or the guys that even maybe you looked up to on some level?
Yeah, I would say Teddy was one of those players. Yeah. Louis Anna was a top player at the time. Jesse, I was with Jesse Chukwu a lot. Also, I never actually played with Devon Van Oostrum, but I heard a lot about him. And then a lot of guys from HCC, Joel Henry, Peter, Jarrell, Chuck, Prince, all those guys. I would look up to all those guys because my first year playing at HCC, I wasn't playing a lot because all those guys were incredible players, So I learned a lot from those guys. So I definitely looked up to a lot of those players.
And then just out of interest, so your twin brother that you started playing with, did he end up stop playing? What did he do?
He stopped playing pretty early. Like after HCC, he just he stopped playing and focused on studies and other things.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so we've got kind of your story in London. You have this amazing summer of 2014. Where I think, like you said, you kind of rose to prominence within the UK anyway. I think within circles, you were kind of on people's lips, people talking about you. Going to the States, getting to the States, I feel like you've spoken about the grind of like trying to make it happen. Like, what was that process? What happened over the course of that summer that then ultimately allowed you to end up getting a look at Fairmont State and going out to the States?
Well, I emailed a lot of coaches. So I had a lot of game film. I put all the game film together, put a CV together, and just emailed a lot of coaches. And, I got some responses from some coaches because they were unaware of me. And at the time, players from the UK weren't really big, so they didn't really know much about UK players. So they felt like they were taking a huge risk picking up, a random UK player. So, I would email a lot of coaches, and then that didn't really fall through. So Timmy and Rashad were the ones that really got me out there. So they connected, but it was pretty late. It was around, because, recruiting, they start recruiting around, early February, April, around them times. And I kind of got this look around to Fairmont State. I got the look around maybe June, a little bit before June. And Rashad kind of helped me with that. He had a lot of connects in the States. He was like, okay, I've got a school for you. They're interested. They want to fly you out, this and that. So they flew me out for a workout. I had an amazing workout with them. and then I came back to the UK. So I ended up actually going to the school mid-semester because of transferring my transcripts and stuff. It's hell. Like it took a lot of, I had to go through a lot of things to transfer my transcripts. I ended up going to the school like midway through the semester, and that was another challenge too.
So many young players have the attitude of, Division 1 or nothing. They don't want to go Division 2. At that point, like, did you find it difficult, like, to go Division 2, or in your head, did you feel like you deserved to go Division 1, or in your head you were just like, I just want to go to the States, kind of, I've done my year in the UK, at UK university now, and this is the option I've got, this is, so I'm going to accept it regardless?
That, I felt I could play Division 1, but the school I was going to was a big school. Like, it wasn't just a regular D2 school. It was when I was there, they were ranked number 1, number 2, number 3 in the country. We played Division 1 schools, closed door games, and we beat Division 1 schools. So that kind of I didn't mind going to something like that, to a situation like that, and it was because of my age and a lot of rules with transcripts and all that kind of stuff. It would have been difficult for me to go Division 1, and so I had to go with that. So I went to Division 2, and I was quite happy with that.
How was that transition going from what you'd been used to in England to the States? Like you said, the school you had gone to, it was no slouch of a Division 2 school. We're talking about one of the top Division 2 programs in the country at that time, nationally ranked. In the 2 years that you were there, went to 2 NCAA tournaments. Like that. I guess the transition in environment of what you've been used to in England to what you then got access to in the States. Like, what were the biggest things that stood out for you? And I guess how did you find that sort of transition?
It's completely different. Like, there was nothing that could have prepared me for that, because going to the States, it's not about what the work you put in. In the UK, it's more about the competition and who you've played against. And going to Fairmont State, there were those guys there. They were all like, they were killers. So it takes a while to get used to the pace, the tempo, the physicality, and I was just thrown right in. And because I went there, I didn't get to do preseason with the school or anything like that. So I went there in the middle of the season, so that even made things worse, because I wasn't, as much as I was working out, I wasn't in shape, because it's a different type of, it's different. It's something I've never done before. It's the United States, and it's the basketball there is different. So I wasn't in shape as much as I thought I was. And the school I was at, they pressed. Like, it was like, West Virginia University, my head coach was an assistant coach there. So he kind of adopted the same philosophy, and we pressed. And it was something I wasn't used to. I haven't, played that kind of basketball before. And it takes a while to get used to it. As much as you work out, as much as whatever, it takes a while to get used to.
Did you find, despite the differences in athleticism and I guess intensity as you're describing it, did you feel like in practices and stuff, skill wise, you were at the level and you were able to compete, or did you feel like there was a transition period of even that as well?
Even that too, because you can be skilled, but the pace was real quick. It was a fast pace. So you kind of have to, they do things. They go 100 miles an hour, but still in a controlled way. I felt like I was skilled enough, but the pace was it's something that kind of wows you. And the guys I was playing with, a lot of that team, they all played. A majority of them play professionally right now. So it was a good team, and but there's always a transition. So I feel like once you get it, But it takes a while to get used to, I think.
The transition, how long do you think it took you?
I think it took me because I got there halfway through the season, so I think it took me that the rest of the season and the summer for me to get used to it. And I feel like if I did preseason with the team before, it would have been more of like a lubricant before just jumping straight in. And the summer where I got to do individuals with the coaches, and they will teach me little things. I would watch film. They'll show me things I could do and things that I couldn't do. Like, even for example, we would run plays 5-on-0. We'd run plays 5-on-0, and they were going like 100 miles an hour. And they'll tell me like, okay, I know it's 5-on-0, but you gotta cut like this, you gotta cut like that. And I'm thinking I'm going, fast, and they'll show me on film, and it's like, wow, like I'm in slow motion, and it's things like that. You kind of, you don't know until they tell you. So those are the little things I had to do to adjust.
I'm right in understanding your time there, your minutes on the floor, like during games, were actually quite hard for you to come by. It wasn't like you were playing a whole lot. Did you find that hard to kind of deal with as well?
Yeah, it's because you have a lot of aspirations and expectations when you get to the States, and you want to play a lot, but a lot of the times it's like I think first impressions are a big thing. So my first impression wasn't very strong. They didn't have a really strong impression of me because of how it took me a while to adapt to the situation. And towards the second year of the season, they already recruited players over me, so it was kind of, I was always fighting for minutes. And the second year I was there, I felt like in the practices I was dominant, and I was showcasing, but they already had the impression of me from last year, and they just it didn't really shake off. And we were winning games also, so it was like they'll stick to what the coach will stick to what he's been doing. And the team they recruited more players, but they had the class I came in with, they were all, they were starters. They've been starting since they were freshmen, and they were sophomores at the time. So I wasn't the guys in my position, I wasn't gonna play over them. So it was kind of difficult and hard. And I kind of knew, midway through the second season, that I was gonna transfer, because no matter what I did in practice, I wasn't gonna play. And he wasn't going to really give me an opportunity. And one of the assistant coaches that recruited me the year before actually left, so it kind of made things a lot harder also. And, assistant coaches like to play the players they recruited. So it was kind of difficult, and I kind of knew that I was gonna transfer.
I was going to say those. So those 2, well, season and a half, obviously, if you joined half season, but those 2 years at Fairmont State, like, do you have a lot of positive memories, or was it actually very challenging because you were trying to deal with sort of getting used to the American game, and then of course knowing that no matter what you did in practice, it wasn't going to change when it came to sort of game time. But of course, with that you had I assume amazing experiences of going to the tournament and kind of seeing that level of program operate. Like, are there, when you look back on your time there, are there sort of real positive standout memories? Like, kind of how would you summarize your time with Fairmont State?
Yeah, I honestly, I have no regrets going there, because I learned a lot. Like, I'm glad I went to a situation like that, because in terms of, learning from the players and the coaches, it was a high level. So I'm glad I went there. And then just experiences like not playing and going through things like that, it kind of, you need to be strong-minded to go through things like that. And I'm glad I went through that kind of early on in my career, because even though it happened, I was still trying to grind and, fight for minutes. And, there was times after the game, I would be in the gym. I had the keys to the gym. I'll go to the gym at 2 a.m., I couldn't sleep because of the situation. It kind of shaped me as a player. and kind of made me more. It made me a tougher player. So I have no regrets going there. And I got to see a lot of things. I got to see, the tournament, this and that, other players, I don't regret it at all. I don't regret it because I think it kind of catapulted me onto another level after I transferred because I was in a better space and I was a better player, honestly.
I was going to say, when you've made the decision to transfer, like from other schools' standpoint, of course, you're at a big-time program that's had a lot of success, but actually when they're trying to see game tape or see the contributions you've made, obviously when you haven't played for a lot over the course of the last season and a half, it's hard for them to say, oh yeah, we want to bring you in, because they don't actually know what you can do. Like, did you find that actually finding potential options was difficult, or did you find actually because of the level of the school that you're at, finding a school to transfer to was relatively easy?
The school, because Fairmont State the name holds a lot of weight, so it wasn't really difficult to find other schools. And there was actually one game where the coach decided to play me, where I had like 18 points in like 12 minutes, and the school I actually did that against picked me up. So that's the school I ended up going to after. But because it was Fairmont State, and they knew how it was. We had a deep roster, and the talent was absurd. So they kind of knew, and I didn't even have to go on a visit. They just wanted me,
How did you find transitioning to a new school, new environment? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Were there things that were massively different from the situation you'd been in previously?
Not because the situation I was in before, I wasn't playing, so, and I was working hard. The summer between the transfer period, it was probably the hardest summer I've ever worked, because I didn't want to be in this situation I was before. So it was probably the hardest summer I've ever worked in my life. So going into the second school, I was more than confident. And getting there, I kind of made I knew going in, it's all about first impression. So I made a strong impression the first week, and from there it just carried on.
Of course, and and that's for context for people. You transferred, all of a sudden, you're starting, you're getting heavy minutes, and over the course of 2 years, you averaged 20 and 10. Over the course of both those 2 seasons. And suddenly almost come out of nowhere. Do you feel like you had always had that ability, you just hadn't been given an opportunity to really show it? Or do you feel like it was just a culmination of having had that transition period to get used to the US, having had a year and a half of playing at a program, even if it's just practicing and not getting as much game time, that then by the time you'd got to Virginia Wise, you were just ready, and it kind of had all sort of come together at the right time?
See, I like to be honest with myself. So like the first year, the half season I was there, I knew 100% I wasn't ready, because it all just hit me, and I was like, wow, I knew I wasn't ready. But the second season, I felt like, I could have played, and I just wasn't given the opportunity the second season. And, after I made the decision to transfer, I put all my focus. Even during that second season, I knew I was going to transfer. So I put all my focus into the next season, what I'll do next season. I know I wasn't going to play. The coach already made his mind up. So when I was working out for next season. I'm glad I had something to look forward to, because before that, I was like depressed. I was real sad. I wasn't playing. I didn't know what was going to happen. And once I had I knew I had the opportunities I know I was going to play somewhere else. I put all that focus into that. So when I got to Virginia, I was ready.
This whole time, did you still have one eye on turning pro? Like, did you still think being a professional basketball player was an option? Was that still the dream, or was it kind of like, I'm going to, obviously I want to get my degree or whatever, play college basketball, and then afterwards I'll make a decision on kind of where I'm at?
when I was at Fairmont, I had doubts. When I was at Fairmont, I had doubts if I was going to play pro because I just wasn't my mind wasn't there because I wasn't playing. But you know, when I knew I was going to transfer, I saw a new light, and I thought like, okay, this is an opportunity. I can still go pro, because if you're not playing, you can't go pro if you're not playing. It's going to be difficult. Even if you go pro, it won't be at a high level. So I kind of, you know, when I transferred, I knew I was gonna play pro.
So there's one game that stands out from your college career, which I'm sure you know which one I'm referring to, but obviously you had 38 points, and it was actually against Fairmont, right? How much of, like, first of all, I'd be interested just hearing your own sort of take on going into that game, what your mindset was, whether you were thinking, I'm going to stick it to them to prove a point. And then I guess after the game, like, how much vindication that was for you of being able to just be like, you know, you made a mistake here, like you could have played me or whatever, I've gone in another situation. Now here you go, here's a 38 point game to take with you back home.
No, that's one of my favorite games. I enjoy playing that game. But you know, going into that game, all my teammates knew, you know, how I felt about the situation at Fairmont. Even though I wasn't really vocal about it, but they knew. And you know, some of the players were just like, "This is your game." You know, they kind of boosted me and encouraged me and was like, "This is your game. Like, go ahead, do your thing." So what kind of actually triggered it was like the first few possessions. I think the first possession I scored, and then, you know, one of the other team, the players from Fairmont kind of were talking shit, and I don't usually talk shit when I play, so they would talk. I don't know if I can curse.
Yeah, that's fine.
But they were, you know, they were trash talking to me, and I didn't really say much, and then I think one of the players scored on me, and then he was talking like really crazy to me, and I was just like, okay. I came down, I scored again, and you know, I don't know, I kind of just blacked out. I don't know what happened. I was taking a lot of shots. I was hitting step backs, everything. It was crazy, and the blocking shots, stealing the ball, all that kind of stuff. Even the coaches were trying to talk trash to me. So I don't know. I was just kind of up for that game, and going back, and I always go back and watch the film, and you know, a lot of the things I was doing in the game, I don't even remember doing it. It's kind of like a, you know, out of body experience. But it's one of the games, you know, I always wanted to go against Fairmont. I always wanted to beat Fairmont because I haven't beat Fairmont. The first time we actually played them, they destroyed us. So, you know, we played them again, and I was ready for that one.
What was the nature of the trash talking that what kind of stuff were they saying to you?
You know, like, if, you know, they're like, he doesn't know what team he's on, he's still with us, this and that, you know. You know, it was just it was crazy. But I enjoy it.
Did you after the game, when you're shaking hands doing the lineups or whatever, did you have any words for them, or was it just a case of like, you know, the game spoke for itself?
Yeah, I mean, we're like, I'm still cool with those guys, but you know, on the court it was just a different energy, and it wasn't more towards the player, it was more towards the coach, if that makes sense. Yeah. But I'm cool with the player, so after the game we still talk about it, and you know, they always talk about how, you know, I went crazy against them, but you know, they congratulated me. It wasn't, you know, there's no hard feelings. It was basically between me and the coach, but I'm still cool with those guys.
What a great moment. So, when you, obviously, you know, like I said, you had 2 very successful years there. Aside from, you know, having great stats, you know, won a number of different awards. Outside of that 38-point game, what are the standout memories for you? Are there any other big things that kind of come to mind of your time there that you kind of, I guess, treasure moving forward?
I think there was another game, my career high, where I had 42 points. I think that was one of my. I like that because it was a great. I probably missed like 2 shots the whole game, and I was kind of mad because the coach took me out early. I could have went for 50, I think. The coach took me out, but that was another game I always think about, and I like that game. Also, another game, my first game at UVA Wise, after transferring from Fairmont, I had 29 and 21. That game, I never forget that game because I got texts from the coaches saying, "Wow, like what happened? Why didn't you do that when you was with us?" I wanted to tell them you didn't play me, but I didn't say that. But that's another game I can never forget.
Amazing. So you had your 2 years. You got the stats that you needed, and obviously turning pro started becoming a reality. I guess when you finish your time at UVA Wise and then making that transition to pro life, what happened? How did it play out? Like, was it a case of, did you have agents hitting you up? Did you find an agent? How did it come to sort of surveying your options of where you could potentially sign, and then why you ended up signing in Spain where you did?
The transition after graduating, it's kind of a scary transition because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where you're going to be. And I was in the States at the time. I didn't know if I was going to stay in the States. I didn't know if I was going to, whatever. I had a lot of agents hitting me up. But I kind of, with agents, you got to know who you're going to sign with. You can't just sign with anyone. You got to do your research. And, I was with Rashad. Rashad was kind of helping me through the situation. And he's an agent right now. He was just trying to become an agent. So it was he wanted to help me. And, I wasn't sure I wasn't sure. I was kind of a little, I don't know how to say, but I was I wasn't sure about the situation with him because he was just starting up. I didn't trust him as much. So but right now I do. He's my guy. And there was another guy from Tangram. He's been talking to me since my first year at UVA Wise. He was looking at me when I signed at Fairmont, so I kind of trusted him. He had a close relationship with my father too, so he would talk to him all the time. So he was kind of the guy I went with.
And then what were the options that you had, when you talk about sort of signing that first pro contract, did you have a lot of potential teams that you had options with, or were your choices rather limited and you were kind of thinking, well, I need to, almost build my reputation again within the pros? I've done it now at college level and now I need to do it at the professional level.
Because I ended up signing with my agency like last minute. It was a little too late. So a lot of the opportunities I could have had were out the window. So that's why I ended up signing with in Spain, and it was at first I kind of thought I could have went higher, this and that, but now looking back, it was a good situation because jumping into the pro life is not easy. It's a whole different game to the States, and it's more X's and O's, and it's a whole different game. And going to signing where I signed was kind of like a stepping stone, and I learned a lot from there. You can make mistakes. It's one of those teams where you can make mistakes and learn. And
yeah, so that you're gonna have to help me with how you pronounce the name of that team.
Marin Peixe Galego.
Peixe Galego, yeah, because it's spelled like Paix ELAG or something like that. So that team was actually in LEB Silver when you signed with them. Mm-hmm. I'd be interested in kind of what the standouts of like the biggest things of professional life compared to college life. Like especially signing somewhere like Spain, where we've spoken about the transition to the States, where the biggest thing was the physicality, the athleticism, the pace. Where then you're then going to Spain, where actually, I would guess, is then, like you just mentioned, way more about X's and O's, way more about systems, way more about reads. But yeah, like what the big things for you were in terms of making that transition to professional basketball life.
It's different, but my coach was pretty patient, and I watched a lot of film with him, him, and he would point things out on this is how he wants me to do. This is where he wants me to, because before my strengths were, I could drive the ball. I was athletic. I could, sometimes I'll break plays and score through that. Even if you break plays in Europe and score sometimes, it's like, that was good, but, that's not what we want, So I had to learn stuff like that. And it's just a different game. Like in the States, you score more off individual talent, isolation plays, all that kind of stuff. But in Europe, it's more assisted baskets. A lot of their baskets are assisted, and that's what I kind of had to learn.
How did you find being a professional at first, in the sense of your entire life now is dedicated to just basketball? You don't have the educational side of things. You're not trying to study at the same time. Like, your life is literally basketball.
It's different. It's different because when I was in the States, my major was tough. So 50% of the time I was either in the library or 50% of the time I was on the court. So, going into the pro life, it's like, wow, like it's just basketball now. It's literally just basketball. And, you can focus. You got a lot more time, and you can focus on strictly basketball. If you want to do extra things, you can do extra things, but you can literally focus just on basketball. And, it was a relief for me, because the studying was crazy. Like some nights I couldn't sleep because I was studying a lot, but I don't know. It's completely different.
Well, are there big things that you had to change about your game to adapt to professional life? When you think about your game in college compared to your game in the pros, like what were the biggest things that you had to adapt or things you had to change the quickest to be able to have success at the professional level?
I think maybe slowing things down, because in the States it's like 100 miles an hour, and wherever, if there's a blink of a mismatch or a blink of opportunity to score, you take it. While in the States, you kind of have in Europe, you kind of have to slow things down. And if they run a play and this is who they want to take the shot, this is who's going to take the shot, And those are the kind of things you kind of have to slow things down. And it's literally X's and O's. If the ball is supposed to be, if they're supposed to run a play and it's supposed to be reverse and this guy's supposed to take the shot, then that's what's going to happen. While in the States, the coach can tell you run this play and you can literally change your mind and do something else, and it's like, it's different. It's weird. It's hard to explain, but it's different.
Culturally, how did you find it moving to a different country and living in Spain?
It's at first it's tough because in Marin, not a lot of people spoke English. Like in the whole city, maybe 5 people spoke English, and on the team we had some English speakers, but maybe like 3 or 4 of them could speak proper English, and the rest, half and half. But I like the culture. It's more chilled. It's chill. It's like, I think going to the States kind of helped, because in the States where I was at is different to London. Like London is more fast paced. Everybody's tunnel vision. If they're going, they don't socialize, they don't talk. So going to the States kind of soften that up, and I was more going there. I kind of learned to be more social, open, speaking to more people. So when I got to Spain, they're a lot more open than people in the States. And I had a family out there that they would invite me to their house. Me and the 2 other imports that invite me to their house. They spoke zero English. So they kind of talking to them. I was kind of immersed in the situation. Like talking to them kind of helped me with my Spanish. I understand Spanish pretty well now, and it's a different culture, and it's nice. It's nice.
I was going to ask you. You've been in Spain 3 seasons now, right? So yeah. Like, how has your grasp of the language become?
It's good. I can understand it. I speak it when I have to speak it, but I can understand it pretty well.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to have. It's just a life skill anyway, isn't it? Like carrying forward in the future. So that your rookie season with Marin, like you had a pretty good season, right? You ended up leading the team to promotion. So you ended up going through and getting promotion to LEB. So that was LEB Silver, and you ended up getting promotion to LEB Gold. Like, What was that like as an experience? Like in the playoffs, you obviously had a sort of very strong individual one, averaging over 20 a game. Like, yeah, I guess what are your sort of standout memories, and kind of recap that season for us leading to that promotion?
That season, it was a weird season because it was an up and down season. Because at first you had to make it to the top group to play the playoffs. So we kind of scraped it, making it to the top group, because they split the groups in half, and the bottom play for not getting relegated and the top play for getting promoted. So we kind of scraped it to making it to the top group. We weren't even sure we were gonna, we had plans to get promoted earlier on in the, before the season. Signing there, it was one of our goals. So, the season was kind of, on and off, was going up and down. Then once we made it to the second group, we kind of figured it out and clicked. And, we just kept going from there, and it led to the promotion. But it was a great experience, The playoffs, I had a very a good run in the playoffs. So personally, individually, it was a good experience.
Is Marin quite a small town?
It's pretty small. But they have a city close to it. It's about 10 minutes away. It's a little bigger.
So what's the I guess the fan base like? Is it a big fan base? Like, how big of a deal was it for them to go from LEB Silver to LEB Gold?
It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a big fan base, but the whole city was behind our back. And it was a small city, but everybody was behind our back. If we lose games, they're on our necks. If we win games, they're on our necks. So it was kind of, they were happier than us, honestly, because they've been trying to do it for, a few years. And the fans, they're pretty cool, man. They even till now, they reach out to me, and, they watch my games and that. But it was a pretty cool fan base.
Making that decision in your second year I assume to re-sign, because I assume on your rookie deal you didn't sign for 2 years.
No.
So making that decision to re-sign, like, how much of an easy decision was that for you? Was that about I guess testing yourself at the next level and sort of seeing it through with the team that you had started with? Did you have options to potentially sign elsewhere? What factors went into the decision to re-sign and then sort of have another go with the same team, but at the next level up?
I was, leaving the team. I was thinking about signing with another team in LEB Oro. I knew I was going to play LEB Oro, so I was thinking of signing with other teams. But talking to my agent and just looking at things, it was a better opportunity to stay, because you get more opportunities. I was stepping into LEB Oro. It's a whole different league, a step above LEB Silver. So, he kind of told me that, if you go to LEB Oro, if you sign with this team, the coach is willing to make the transition easier for you. You're going to play a lot, this and that. So it was kind of an easy decision. And I know it's kind of awareness. I knew the city, I knew the people, I knew a lot of people there. I felt like home. So
when you talk about the gap between LEB Plata, LEB Oro, like, how big of a gap is it, for you making that transition the next year into the higher level? Like, was it that much more difficult, or was it kind of whereabouts that you expected it to be? Like, I'd just be interested in hearing kind of you talk about the difference in the levels.
I think it's a huge gap. Not huge, it's a huge gap, I'd say. Maybe it's in LEB Oro, in LEB Silver, you probably have like 5-6 players that can play on each team. While in LEB Oro, you have a whole roster. A
lot more depth.
A lot of depth. The whole, they can play, and just the level is higher. The bigs are bigger. The guards are bigger, and you have a lot of players from ACB playing LEB Oro too, and they play in between. So it's a huge gap, I would say, especially the top teams of LEB Oro. It's a huge gap.
Do you feel like the step up to the ACB is another huge gap?
I would say so. but the ACB is a different game. It's more with like they have specialists. Like for example, in ACB in LEB you might have a player that can do a lot of things. They can do a lot of things, but if you put them in ACB, they don't need them to do all those things. It's maybe specific thing. Like they bring you to ACB and you're a defensive player, that's what you're gonna be. They bring you to ACB and you're let's say a pick and roll player. That's you. You're a passer. You're big. You screen and roll, and that's all you do. Like it's specific. While in LEB, it's kind of you can do a lot of things.
So that second season, you had another good year with solid numbers, and then, in fact, that would have been the season that would have then ended up being cut short by COVID.
Yeah.
So what happened? Where were you in the season, and I guess kind of how did that end up playing out in terms of what it meant for you for the end of the season?
So at first, I think it all started in March, or a little before that. So I was there. I was in Spain, and at first they told us this weekend we don't play. So we're like, okay, we don't play. Then got to the weekend, Monday morning, they were like, okay, no practice. Like, okay, no practice. And then a few days after, it was like, okay, the season might be done. And we're like, okay, we didn't know what was going on. Then they were like, okay, the season's done. Oh no, they said the season's postponed for a few weeks, and they said the players could go home. They said the Spanish players could go home. So all the Spanish players went home. They didn't want the imports to go home because they know if the imports went home, we probably wouldn't be able to travel back. So they kept us there for another 2-3 weeks. Then they told us, okay, I think the season might be done, or it's either done or we come back in a month and play. And they were like, okay, we want to give you the option to either go home or either come back, or you can stay. But they were hinting, they wanted us to stay actually because if there was a chance of the season starting, we'd stay. We'd be right there. And so we ended up just going home because there's no point. We were there for like a month and a half and nothing was going on. So we ended up going home, and we ended up finding out that the season was done.
Wow. And so you were back in London for the lockdown?
I was back in London, yeah.
Because funnily enough, when I was Googling, one of the results that came up was a Getty image result of you working out during lockdown in Elephant and Castle somewhere. Like, did you do some type of photos for some sort of newspaper article where they were trying to find athletes that were struggling to work out? Like, what was the story for you? Like that summer, like last summer, like trying to find somewhere to work out, like, and obviously work on your game and ensure that you're in shape and good for this year. Like, how much of a challenge was that for you being back in London?
Oh, it was the worst. I don't think I saw an indoor court maybe once the whole time I was back. So, and the thing with at Elephant and Castle, I was working out outdoors. I was literally just shooting around, and I saw a lady. She was taking photos of me, and I didn't really pay too much attention. I was just shooting, and she was like, "Oh, what's your name?" She was talking to me, this and that. And then she's like, okay, we're doing a little article about about athletes and people just playing outdoors and stuff. And I didn't tell her I play professionally or anything. She's like, oh, what's your name? This and that. So she took my email, she took my number, she took my socials, and she saw I play professionally. She Googled my name, and she was like, wow, like you actually play professionally, this and that. So she just made a big deal about it, made an article. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Put some photos up. But it was probably one of the most, it was very challenging this summer. Everything was outdoors, literally everything. And I probably saw an indoor court once, and that was probably like a week before I left. And, coming here, it was, the beginning was tough because, I hadn't played indoors. The lines are different. I've been used to shooting. I didn't know what lines was this. A basket was like one of the baskets was like this. One of the baskets was like that. So it was different. It was different. It was very challenging.
I was going to say, so yeah, this season obviously with Coruna. Is that how you pronounce it? Coruna.
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 Yeah.
did you? I was going to say, like at that during the preseason stage and kind of bringing everyone. I assume that most of the players are in a similar situation where they haven't played that much compared to what they would normally do during the off season. Was it a case of it was clear that everyone was really, really rusty, and it took a little while for everyone to kind of get into the flow of things a little bit?
Yeah, probably like half of the team, because some of the players they're Spanish, so they had access to a lot of the stuff, a lot of the facilities. Mm-hmm. Some of the players were coming from the States also. They have facilities in the States. So probably like half of the team was out of shape, I'd say. Yeah.
And so this season, your team is second. Is your team second in the league at the moment? So you're having like a relatively strong season. Like, obviously, it's your first professional season outside of Marin, like in a different place. Mm-hmm. Like, how have you found it? And of course, you're also dealing with the uncertainty around COVID, and I'm assuming there's potentially been games that have been postponed, and you're having to do self-isolating and tests and all that kind of stuff. Like, how has it all been going?
It's been going well. It's glad, I'm happy that, we're winning a lot of games. I started off rough because I had minor injuries at the beginning of the season where I missed maybe like 5-6 games. And, I'm been easing my way into the rotation now. But we've got a really solid team. We got a lot of guys that have played ACB on the team. We've got a deep roster. In my position, we got like 3-4 players in my position, and everyone on the team can play, and we got a very competitive roster. That's why we're at the top of the league, and I'm glad with this team.
So just quickly, as we start coming towards the end, I just want to briefly speak about representing the Ireland national team. Obviously, it was summer of 2018. I think was your first call up with the senior team playing in the Small Countries Championship, which was obviously a decent tournament for you personally. How did that call up come about? And I guess what would you say about your time with the Irish national team?
It was pretty random. I got an email from someone on the I didn't even know they had a team, because before I went to the States, I wanted to play for the young team. I think it was the under 21s or something like that. I want to play for the young national team, and I looked it up, and they didn't have a team. So I didn't know they even had a team. So when I was in the States when they actually messaged me, and I got an email asking about they heard that I'm Irish, this and that, and would I be willing to play for the team? And I was like, why not? So they flew out there and worked out with the team. They're like, okay, we're happy with what we've seen. We want you to play for the team. This is when we're gonna play, this and that. Ended up playing with them. We did pretty good. We did pretty good. We came third. We had a lot of our they said a lot of the main players couldn't play this season for various reasons, and even still, we did decent. We came third in the tournament, and
you obviously made All-Star 5 as well, right?
Made All-Star 5 too, so it was pretty cool.
So do you have a passport from the fact that you lived there from the age of 5 to 16? It was like you got citizenship that way.
Yeah, and my brothers and sisters were born there. My younger brother and sister were born there, so we all just we applied for the Irish, and we just got the Irish,
And then you did 3-on-3 with them as well, right?
3-on-3, yeah.
Obviously, that's been a massive push from FIBA, and of course, in England, we've got the Commonwealth Games. 3-on-3 is going to be happening in 2023 or 2022. I don't know, one of the two. I'd just be interested in hearing your experiences of 3-on-3. What do you think about that? Like, do you think that is, it's going to be in the Olympics? Like, do you think that's something that is potentially going to be as big as 5-on-5? Do you think it could be as big as 5-on-5? And for you as a player, like, what's the experience of playing in it when you compare it to 5-on-5? Or does it feel a bit too street, a bit too unorganized to compare to 5-on-5?
I think it's a completely different game, but I think it should be as big. I had a lot of fun playing in it. I think it should be as big as 5-on-5. Like, it's a whole different, like, it's hard to explain. You got to play it to understand. But it's a little streety, but it's fun. You get to, the shot clock is like 12 seconds. you basically get to shoot it every time you touch it. You know, as soon as you rebound it, you go back out. It's it's very fun. I think it should be. I think a lot of people should play, honestly.
They also made the ball a little bit smaller, so it's easier to palm, and so that you can get more dunks and stuff like that. Like, it's it's super interesting. The thing is, I don't mind it, but I'm always like, would I get as excited about watching, you know, GB versus Ireland or whatever, like, as I would if it was 5-on-5? Like, I don't know if I would. And as a spectator sport, when you're talking about like it being a big serious thing, like, I don't know if I see it. But then at the same time, you know, if everyone's fielding their best players, like, it would be interesting. But yeah, no, it's super interesting. Anyway, I digress. Right, we got to start wrapping up. So I'm going to give you some quick fire questions to finish with, and we're going to start with your favourite basketball memory.
Favorite basketball memory? I don't know.
I thought you were going to instantly say your 38-point game, but
it's definitely between that and my first game at UVA Wise. Yeah. It's one of those two. Okay. But I would say more my first game at UVA Wise.
Okay.
Where I had 29 and 21 was my favorite memory.
Why do you think that one gets the edge? Is that because of the fact that, like, you'd just done a year and a half of kind of not seeing the floor, not struggling? It was just kind of proof that I knew that I could do this. I just needed an opportunity.
Yeah, it was definitely that, because, you know, going into the game, I was just like, okay, I had nerves, but I hadn't played in a year and a half, literally. And I came back and I did that, and it kind of, you know, gave me validation, like, okay, I'm good, I can play. Because I had doubts at Fairmont, you know, not playing a year and a half. You're going to have doubts. So that first game was like, yeah, I can play.
The best British player that you've played with or against?
The best British player I played with or against? One of the players that gave me problems, it was when I was getting good, was Bode. He plays for Hemo now.
Oh, Bode Adeluola.
Bode. He gave me so much work. Like, he literally destroyed me. So, he was one of my favorite players.
Best coach you've ever played for, and why?
Best
coach you've ever played for, and why?
Best coach I played for? I would say, Sam Stiller. Sam Stiller. His IQ was crazy. Like, he taught me a lot of things IQ wise.
When did you play for him?
The combination was, he played for HEC, and I played for NASA also.
And you played for NASA?
I played for NASA a little bit. Yeah, I played for NASA a little bit also.
Okay.
So he helped me a lot.
The best individual performance that you've ever witnessed?
Like playing against, or
or even just in person. Like, have you ever seen someone completely go off?
There was one guy in my league. He started off playing, when he played his first 2 seasons, he played in Concord. He was averaging like maybe 10 or 11 points, and then out of nowhere, he had like 40 points back to back, and it was just something to watch. And then the season after, he led the country in scoring. He ended up averaging like 35, 36 points. And there was one game he had like 50 in the tournament, and that was great to watch. His name was Tommy Bolt.
Tommy Bolt. Okay, and then finally, the future for you, like next sort of 3 to 5 years, like what are your aspirations? What are you trying to achieve basketball-wise? Of course, 3 years in, you spent your entire time in Spain. Do you want to see him play in other countries? Like, kind of what are you aspiring to do in the next 3 to 5 years?
Like, next 3 to 5 years, I'm just, I'm trying to play at the highest level I can possibly play at, whether that's in Spain, whether that's in, if I have opportunities in other countries, I wouldn't mind exploring that. But I'm trying to, play at a high level and then, get paid. That's always everybody's plan,
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to right now.
Makes perfect sense. Cool. That's the perfect place to leave it. Thank you so much for taking the time on this Sunday morning. Really appreciate it. Obviously, good luck with the rest of the season. We'll be following, and hopefully, I will see you back in London at some point this summer.
For sure, this summer it'll be good to catch up. I had fun on this. Thanks a lot, man.